I didn't cry when I missed my son's wedding. I cried when she called me 3 days later. I still remember the exact moment. My world shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that quietly shattered everything I believed. We got married yesterday. We only invited important people. But at first, I thought I heard it wrong. I even forced a small smile, waiting for the rest of the sentence. A laugh, a correction, something, anything. But it never came. Clara just stood there, looking at me, calm, unbothered, almost satisfied. And my son, my own son, Daniel, couldn't even look me in the eyes. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was real. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just break. It collapsed. My name is Margaret. I'm 72 years old. And that day, I realised something that took me decades to understand. Or you can give someone your whole life and still mean nothing to them. I didn't cry immediately. No, that would have been easier, cleaner, simpler. Instead, I stood there, holding my phone, feeling like it suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. My fingers tightened around it, but I couldn't move, because if I moved, it would mean accepting what I had just heard. Important people. The words echoed in my mind, over and over again, like a cruel song I couldn't turn off. Important. So what was I? For 3 years, I had been their support system, their safety net, their emergency contact, their solution to every problem. But apparently, not important. I slowly sat down, right there in my living room, on the sofa I had bought for them. In the same sofa Clara was now sitting on, scrolling through her phone, as if nothing had happened. And that's when something even more painful hit me. She wasn't nervous, she wasn't apologetic, she wasn't even pretending. Because to her, this was normal. And maybe that was the most painful part. You see, for years, I convinced myself that I was loved, that I mattered, that everything I did for them came from a place of appreciation. But love doesn't exclude you, love doesn't erase you, love doesn't make you feel like a stranger in your own family. I didn't see it coming. Or maybe I just didn't want to. Because the truth is, when love is all you have left, you protect it, even when it's hurting you. Daniel wasn't always like this. At least, that's what I used to believe. I remember him as a little boy, running toward me after school, throwing his arms around me like I was his entire world. "Mum, you're the best." He used to say that all the time. And I believed him. I held on to those moments like they were proof that deep down, he still loved me. But now, sitting there, listening to the silence that followed Clara's words, I started to question everything. When did things change? Was it when he got older? When he moved out? When Clara came into his life? Or was I just too busy giving to notice what I was losing? Because giving became my identity. After my husband passed away, Daniel became my entire world. Every decision I made, every sacrifice, every plan was centered around him. I told myself, if I give him everything, he will never feel the absence of his father. But I didn't realize something important. In trying to give him everything, I taught him that I would always be there, no matter what, No boundaries, no limits, no conditions. And somewhere along the way, that unconditional love turned into unconditional access. Access to my time, my energy, my money, my life. And I let it happen. Not because I was weak, but because I was a mother. And mothers, we don't keep score. Or at least, we think we don't. Until one day, we're forced to. That night, after they left, I walked into my bedroom slowly. The house felt different, too quiet, too empty, too honest. I opened my closet, and there it was. The dress. Still hanging, brand new, never worn. I reached out, ran my fingers across the fabric, and felt something rise in my chest. Pain, raw, heavy, unavoidable. I had spent weeks choosing that dress, imagining the day, the photos, the smiles, the pride. I even bought matching shoes, carefully picked, because I wanted to look perfect, for my son's wedding. A wedding I was never invited to. That's when everything changed, not just emotionally, but mentally. Because for the first time, I stopped asking, why did they do this to me? And started asking, why did I allow this for so long? That question changed everything. Because the answer wasn't about them. It was about me. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I couldn't, but because my mind refused to rest. Every memory, every sacrifice, every moment I had ignored, came rushing back. It was like my life was replaying itself. But this time, without the filter of love. And the truth, it was painful. I saw every time Clara smiled sweetly, right before asking for money. Every time Daniel called, not to check on me, but because something was wrong. Every "we miss you" that somehow always ended with, "Can you help us?" I didn't see it before, or maybe I chose not to see it, because seeing it would mean admitting something I wasn't ready to face. That I had been used, that I had allowed it, and that the love I thought I was receiving was never really there. At exactly 6:12 a.m, I got out of bed. Not slowly, not tired, but with a strange sense of urgency, like something inside me had woken up and refused to go back to sleep. I walked to the kitchen, made coffee, sat at the table. And for the first time in years, I didn't think about Daniel. I didn't check my phone. I didn't wait for a message. I didn't hope for an apology. Because deep down, I already knew it wasn't coming. Instead, I reached for something else. My drawer. Inside it were years of bank statements, receipts, notes, little reminders of a life I had been funding. My hands hesitated for a moment, because part of me already knew what I was about to discover. But this time, I didn't look away. I started calculating, slowly, carefully, painfully, month by month, transfer by transfer, expense by expense. $500 for rent, every month, in 3 years. $200 for groceries, sometimes more. Gifts, birthdays, holidays, anniversaries. Unexpected emergencies, medical bills, car repairs. The numbers kept building, and with every total, my chest tightened. Not because of the money, but because of what it represented. Time, energy, sacrifice, love. By the time I finished, I just sat there, silent, still. $36,800. I whispered it out loud, just to make sure it was real. $36,800. Gone. Spent on 2 people who couldn't even call me important. I didn't cry. Not this time. Because something inside me had shifted. This wasn't about pain anymore. This was about clarity. That's when my phone rang. Daniel. His name lit up the screen. Bright, familiar, once comforting. Now, empty. I stared at it, watched it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. And for the first time in my life, I didn't answer. The silence that followed felt powerful. Frustrated. 10 minutes later, Clara called. I let that ring too. Then a message came in. Mum, please answer. We need to talk. I read it once, then again. And something inside me almost responded, out of habit, out of instinct, out of years of conditioning. But I stopped myself, because I finally understood something. Every time I answered, I was saying yes, even before they asked. And today, for the first time, I chose not to. I put the phone down, took a deep breath, and stood up. I need air, I whispered. That afternoon, I went for a walk. No destination, no purpose, no urgency. Just me. The sun felt different on my skin. The air felt lighter. The world felt wider. I walked past the park where I used to take Daniel. I stopped. And for a moment, I saw him again. Running, laughing, calling my name. Mum! I closed my eyes and let the memory play, because that version of him was the one I held on to for years, the one I used to justify everything. But when I opened my eyes, he was gone. And in his place was the reality I had been avoiding. A grown man, dependent, entitled, disconnected. That's when everything changed. Again. But this time, it wasn't emotional. It was strategic. And because I realised something powerful. If I didn't change my actions, nothing would change. Not them, not the situation, not the outcome. Only me. So I turned around, walked with purpose, and headed somewhere I hadn't gone for myself in years, the bank. As I walked in, the familiar smell hit me. Clean, quiet, controlled. A place where numbers mattered, facts mattered, truth mattered. I needed that. Mr. Lawson saw me immediately. He smiled, the same polite smile he always gave me. Mrs. Margaret, good to see you. I smiled back, but this time there was something different behind it. I need your help. He gestured for me to sit. What can I do for you? I looked him directly in the eye. No hesitation, no softness, no apology. I want to cancel all automatic transfers. He blinked, surprised. All of them? Yes. And I want full control of my accounts. No shared access. No exceptions. He paused, studying me. Did something happen? I leaned back slightly, took a breath, and said calmly, yes. I finally woke up. As he processed the request, my phone kept vibrating. Daniel, Clara, again, and again and again. It almost felt like they could sense it. Like something inside them knew. Their control was slipping. I reached into my bag, took out my phone, and turned it off. Completely. And just like that, the noise stopped. Not just the phone, but the pressure, the expectation, the invisible weight I had been carrying for years. When I walked out of that bank, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. But peace doesn't come without confrontation. And mine was waiting for me at home. As I turned into my street, something felt off. My hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. My instincts, quiet for so many years, suddenly awake. Then I saw them. 2 cars, parked right in front of my house. Danielle's, Clara's. My heart didn't race out of fear. It raced out of realisation. They know. I sat in the car for a moment, watching, waiting, breathing. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just a visit. This was confrontation. And for the first time, I didn't feel like avoiding it. I felt ready. I stepped out of the car slowly, closed the door, walked toward the house. Every step felt intentional, grounded, different. This wasn't the same woman who said yes to everything. This was someone new. And I reached the door and noticed something that made my chest tighten. It was unlocked. I paused, my hand resting on the handle. They used their keys. The same keys I had given them, out of trust, out of love, out of belief that family meant safety. I pushed the door open, and what I saw confirmed everything. Daniel was sitting on my couch, head in his hands. Clara was pacing, back and forth, restless, irritated, anxious. And then there was someone else. A man, well-dressed, standing at my dining table, going through my papers. My papers. For a second, everything went silent. Not around me, but inside me. Because something shifted, not emotionally, not painfully, but coldly. What is going on here? My voice cut through the room, sharp, clear, controlled. All 3 of them turned. Clara rushed forward first, her face instantly softening, her voice sweetening. "Margaret, thank God you're here. We've been so worried." I didn't respond. I didn't even look at her. My eyes were locked on the man. "Who are you?" He adjusted his suit, cleared his throat. "My name is Mr. Howard. I'm a legal consultant." "Legal?" "Of course. And why are you in my house?" A pause, just a second, but enough. "Your family is concerned about your recent behaviour. We're here to help assess the situation." Assess. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Because now, everything was clear. This wasn't concern, this was strategy. As Daniel finally stood up, avoiding my eyes. "Mum, why did you cancel the payments?" Straight to it. No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement. Just money. I walked slowly into the room, step by step. Picked up my documents from the table, stacked them neatly, then looked at all 3 of them. "I want you to leave." Silence. Clara blinked. "What?" I said, "Leave my house." The tone changed instantly. The sweetness disappeared. The mask cracked. "Margaret, don't do this," she snapped. "We're trying to help you." "Help me?" I tilted my head slightly. "By going through my private documents. By bringing a lawyer into my home without my permission." Daniel stepped forward, frustrated now. "Mum." You're not thinking clearly. There it was. The narrative. The setup. I'm thinking clearer than I ever have. Mr. Howard stepped in, voice calm, professional, calculated. "Mrs. Margaret, sudden financial decisions like this can sometimes indicate..." I raised my hand, stopping him. "Don't." He paused. "You will not stand in my house. And tell me what my decisions mean." Clara crossed her arms. "You're being irrational." "No," I replied calmly. "For the first time, I'm being intentional." Daniel ran his hand through his hair, agitated. "Mum, we have bills. Rent. Loans. Things you agreed to help with." Agreed. I let that word sit in the air. I agreed, because I believed I was helping family. As I stepped closer, my voice lower now, stronger. But what I was actually doing was funding your lifestyle. Clara scoffed. "That's not fair." "No," I said quietly. "What's not fair is being excluded from your wedding after everything I've done." Silence, heavy, uncomfortable. For a brief moment, Daniel looked at me, really looked, and I saw it. Guilt. But it disappeared just as quickly, replaced by frustration. "That's not the point right now." I smiled, a small, almost sad smile. "That's exactly the point." Mr. Howard cleared his throat again. "We've prepared a temporary solution, a power of attorney, so your finances can be managed more efficiently." And before he could finish, I reached out, took the folder from his hand, and dropped it straight into the trash. The sound echoed. Final. Decisive. "Get out!" Clara's eyes widened, then narrowed. "You can't do this." I just did. Daniel stepped closer, his voice lower now, threatening. "If you don't fix this, you're going to regret it." I held his gaze, unshaken. For years, I've been the one regretting things. I took a step back, pointed to the door. "Now it's your turn." Of course. Clara's composure broke. "We built our life around your support." There it was again. The truth, unfiltered. "Exactly." I nodded slowly. "And that's the problem." Daniel's voice rose. "You can't just cut us off." And I looked at him, long and steady. "Watch me." Silence. Thick, heavy, final. They stood there for a moment, as if waiting for me to change my mind. But I didn't, because something inside me had finally settled. This wasn't anger. This wasn't emotion. This was clarity. And clarity doesn't negotiate. One by one, they turned, walked toward the door. But just before leaving, Daniel stopped, turned back, and said something that could have broken me if I was still the woman I used to be. "You're going to end up alone." I took a breath and answered calmly. "I've been alone for a long time." Then I closed the door, and just like that, the silence returned. But this time, it felt different. It didn't feel empty. It felt free. And in that silence, I made a promise to myself. This is not the end. This is the beginning. That night, the house felt unfamiliar, not because anything had changed, but because I had. For years, this space had been filled with noise, phone calls, requests, urgencies, problems that were never really mine, but somehow always became mine. Now, there was silence, deep, uninterrupted, honest silence. And for the first time, it didn't scare me. It grounded me. I sat in my living room, lights dim, hands resting on my lap, and allowed myself to feel everything. Not just the betrayal, but the truth behind it. They never saw me as a person, only as a solution. And now that the solution was gone, they were panicking. Not because they missed me, but because they needed me. That realization didn't hurt anymore. It strengthened me. Because once you see people clearly, you stop negotiating your worth. And I was done negotiating. The next morning, I woke up early. Not out of habit, but out of purpose. There was work to do. Real work. Not for them, but for me. By 8 a.m, I was sitting in the office of Mr. Bennett again, my lawyer, my ally, my shield. He looked at me carefully, studying my face. "You look different," he said. "I am." I told him everything. Their visit, the lawyer, the documents, the threat behind their calm voices. He listened without interrupting, then leaned back slowly. "They're escalating." I nodded. "I know. And we will too." That was the moment the situation shifted from emotional conflict to strategic defence. We didn't waste time. Step 1, change the locks immediately. Step 2, install a full security system, cameras, alerts, control. Step 3, move my finances, new accounts, new access, new structure. Step 4, and most important, prepare for legal retaliation. Because people like Daniel and Clara don't walk away quietly. They fight harder when they lose control. And that's exactly what this was. A loss of control. By noon, everything was already in motion. By evening, the locks were changed. And for the first time, the keys I had given out of love meant nothing. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because my life was perfect, but because it was finally mine. But peace never lasts long. When control is taken away from the wrong people. 3 days later, the calls started again. Unknown numbers, back to back, relentless. I ignored every single one. Then the messages came. First from Daniel. "Mum, this is getting out of hand." Then Clara. "We need to talk like adults." Then Daniel again. "You're making a huge mistake." I read them all and felt nothing. Because now I understood something powerful. Urgency is a tool, and they had used it for years. Every emergency, every problem, every "we need you now" was never really urgent. It was control. And I was no longer available for it. Then one afternoon, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I hesitated for a second, then answered. "Hello?" A pause. Then Clara's voice. Soft, careful, calculated. "Margaret May, please don't hang up." I didn't respond. "I know things got intense the other day, but we can fix this." Fix. That word again. as if this was a misunderstanding, not a pattern. We can have dinner, talk things through, start fresh. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, and asked one simple question. How much do you owe? Silence. Then, a sigh. About $1,500. Of course. It always came back to that. Money. But that's not why I'm calling, she added quickly, when we care about you. I smiled. A real smile this time. Do you? Another pause. Longer. Heavier. Yes. I opened my eyes. Then tell me, when was the last time you called me? Without needing something? Silence. Deep. Unavoidable. Because we both knew the answer. Never. Margaret, that's not fair. No, I cut in calmly. What's not fair is thinking you can use me and still have access to me. Her tone changed, slightly sharper now. Quost, you're overreacting. No, I said quietly. I'm finally reacting correctly. And with that, I ended the call. Too, not angrily, not emotionally, but intentionally. Because every conversation was no longer about feelings, it was about boundaries. That mine were no longer negotiable. That evening, as I sat quietly in my living room, something unexpected happened. The doorbell rang. My body tensed for a second. Old habits, old fears. But then I remembered the cameras. I picked up my phone, checked the screen, and saw something that surprised me. A woman, elderly, kind-looking, holding a small tray. Not Daniel, not Clara. Someone else. I opened the door slowly. Hello? She smiled warmly. I'm Mrs. Evelyn Carter, your neighbour. I blinked, surprised. I heard things got a little loud the other day. I just wanted to check on you. That simple sentence did something unexpected. It softened something inside me. Because for the first time in all of this, someone showed up without needing anything, only to care. I stepped aside. Would you like to come in? And just like that, a new chapter began. One not built on obligation, but on connection. And for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't alone. That evening, something shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a quiet, powerful way. As I sat across from Evelyn Carter, sipping tea, listening to her speak, I realised something I hadn't felt in years. Genuine connection. No hidden agenda. No subtle manipulation. No expectation. Just presence. And somehow, that felt more valuable than everything I had been giving away for years. You remind me of myself, Evelyn said softly. I looked up, curious. How so? She smiled gently, the kind of smile that carries experience. I spent years taking care of people who only showed up when they needed something. I felt that, deeply. And what changed? I asked. She leaned back slightly, took a breath. I got tired of being loved only when I was useful. Those words hit something inside me, because that was exactly it. I wasn't loved. I was needed. And there's a difference, a big one. What did you do? I asked quietly. I stopped. Simple, direct, powerful. I stopped giving what wasn't being respected. I stopped answering every call. I stopped solving problems that weren't mine. And what happened? She smiled again, but this time, there was strength behind it. They got angry. They blamed me. They tried to make me feel guilty. I nodded slowly. That sounds familiar. She leaned forward slightly. But then something interesting happened. I waited. They were forced to grow. Silence filled the room, because that truth was uncomfortable, but necessary. You see, Evelyn continued, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop helping. I exhaled slowly, because for years, I believed the opposite. That love meant sacrifice, endless sacrifice. But now, I was starting to understand something deeper. Love without boundaries is not love. It's self-neglect. That night, after Evelyn left, I sat alone again. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt full of awareness, full of truth, full of something new. Strength. For the next few days, life became quieter. Peaceful. Almost normal. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. Taking walks without purpose, as cooking meals just for myself, reading books without interruption. I even went to the salon. The stylist looked at me and smiled. "You look different," she said. "I feel different," I replied. And for the first time, that was true. But peace has a way of testing you, right when you start to believe in it. It happened on a Thursday morning. I was having breakfast, calm, relaxed, present. When the doorbell rang, Cruz. I checked the camera. A woman stood outside, professional, well-dressed, holding a folder. Something about her posture told me this wasn't a casual visit. I opened the door slowly. "Good morning," she said politely. "My name is Ms. Harris. I'm from social services." My stomach dropped. Social services. Yes, we received a report that you may be in a vulnerable situation and we need to conduct a wellness check. For a moment, I couldn't speak because I already knew. Daniel, Clara, they had escalated. "Of course," I said calmly. "Please come in." She stepped inside, sat down, opened her folder, and began. "Mrs. Margaret, we've received concerns about your recent behaviour. Sudden financial decisions, isolation from family, paranoid actions like installing surveillance systems. Every word felt calculated, carefully chosen, to make me sound unstable, to make me sound unfit." I listened quietly, not interrupting, not reacting, because something inside me had changed. I wasn't defending myself emotionally anymore. I was observing strategically. "Before we continue," I said calmly, "I would like to call my lawyer." She hesitated. "This is just a routine check." "I understand," I replied, "but I prefer to proceed with legal representation." Prutch. A pause. Then a nod. "Of course." I stepped into the next room, called Mr. Bennett, explained everything. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. When he arrived, the entire atmosphere shifted. "Yes, crew." He greeted Ms. Harris politely, then sat beside me. "Please continue," he said. But now, the power had changed, because I wasn't alone. Ms. Harris reviewed her notes again, but this time, her confidence had softened. "Mrs. Margaret, can you explain why you stopped financially supporting your family?" And I looked at her directly, calm, clear, grounded. Because I realised I was being used. Silence. I spent years supporting 2 capable adults who treated me like a resource, not a person. Mr. Bennett added quietly, "We have full documentation of all financial transactions." Ms. Harris flipped through her papers. "And the security system?" "For protection," I replied, "after they entered my home without permission." Her pen paused. "And the isolation from family?" "I'm not isolated," I said calmly. "I'm selective." That answer changed everything. Because there's a difference, a big one. Mr. Bennett leaned forward slightly. "My client is mentally sound, financially responsible, and legally protected." And the room fell silent. Ms. Harris closed her folder slowly. "I see no indication. That intervention is required." Relief washed over me. Quiet, steady, deep. After she left, I sat back in my chair, exhaled, and realised something important. They weren't going to stop. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control. And people who lose control do dangerous things. That evening, Mr. Bennett looked at me seriously. "They're going to escalate again." I nodded. "I know." "And next time," he paused, "it may not be just a wellness check." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He held my gaze. "They might try to take everything from you." Silence. Heavy. Real. Because for the first time, the possibility became clear. This wasn't just a conflict anymore. It was war. The letter arrived on a Monday morning. Plain envelope. No emotion, no warning, just a name. My name. I stood by the door for a moment, holding it, feeling its weight. Because deep down, I already knew. This was it. The escalation Mr. Bennett warned me about. I walked slowly to the table, sat down, and opened it carefully. Each second felt stretched, heavy, intentional. Then I read it. A legal filing. Petition for mental incompetence. Filed by my own son, Daniel. My hands didn't shake, not this time. Because something inside me had already prepared for this moment. Still, there was a quiet ache, deep and unspoken. "How did we get here?" I whispered. Not in anger, not in confusion, but in acceptance. Because the truth was no longer hidden. This wasn't about concern. This was about control. And control had turned into desperation. That same afternoon, I sat in Mr. Bennett's office again, the letter placed neatly in front of him. He read it once, then again, then leaned back slowly. "They've gone all in." I nodded. "I expected that. And we're ready." That word, we. It mattered. Because for years, I handled everything alone. But not anymore. We didn't panic. We prepared. Every document, every bank record, every message, every moment of evidence. Organised, structured, precise. We built the truth, piece by piece. Not emotional, not reactive, but undeniable. The days leading up to the court date were strangely calm, almost peaceful, because once you accept the worst-case scenario, fear loses its power. And I had accepted it. The morning of the hearing, I woke up before my alarm, sat on the edge of my bed, and took a deep breath. This was it. I stood up, walked to the mirror, and for a moment, I just looked at myself. Not the woman who gave everything, not the woman who tolerated everything, but the woman who finally chose herself. "You're ready," I whispered. And for the first time, I believed it. I dressed slowly, carefully. Black outfit, simple, strong, unapologetic. And when I arrived at the courthouse, the air felt different, heavy, serious, final. I stepped inside and saw them. Daniel, Clara, sitting together, close, unified. For a moment, something old tried to rise inside me. A memory, a feeling, a connection. But it faded quickly, because reality was stronger now. They weren't family anymore. They were opposition. Daniel glanced at me. For a split second, our eyes met. And I saw something there. Not love, not warmth, but discomfort. Because deep down, he knew. He knew what he had done. Clara, on the other hand, didn't look away. She held my gaze, confident, calculated. As if she believed they would win. But confidence without truth is just noise. Oined, and I had something stronger. The truth. The courtroom filled slowly. People took their seats. The judge entered. And just like that, it began. Their lawyer spoke first. Calm, polished, convincing. He painted a picture. A lonely elderly woman, making irrational decisions, pushing away the only family she had. It was well crafted. If I didn't know better, I might have believed it myself. Then Clara took the stand. Tears, soft voice, carefully chosen words. We just want to help her. She's not the same anymore. I watched her. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Because I finally saw her fully. Not as a daughter-in-law, but as a strategist. And then Daniel, Piggies, my son, standing there, repeating the same narrative. We're worried. She's making bad decisions. We just want what's best for her. Each word carefully chosen. Each sentence carefully placed. But none of it was true. And the truth was about to speak. When it was our turn, everything changed. Mr. Bennett stood up, calm, confident, precise. He didn't rush. He didn't react. He simply presented facts. Bank records, transfers, amounts, dates. Year after year of financial support, thus tens of thousands, given freely, without obligation. Then came the messages. Requests, excuses, patterns. A clear story, not of care, but of dependence. Then witnesses. Professionals, friends, even Evelyn. People who saw me clearly, who confirmed what I already knew. I was not confused. I was not unstable. I was not vulnerable. I was aware. And then, it was my turn. I stood up slowly, walked to the stand, sat down, and looked around the room. Then I spoke. I am not confused. My voice was steady, grounded, clear. I am not weak. I paused, let the silence settle. And I am not controlled. The room shifted, was bust. I am a woman. Who finally said no. Silence filled the courtroom. Deep, heavy, unavoidable. I told my story, not dramatically, not emotionally, but truthfully, to the money, the sacrifices, the wedding, the betrayal. Then I said something. That changed everything. I spent years trying to be needed, because I thought that meant I was loved. I looked directly at Daniel, but I was wrong. I was just useful. You could feel it. The truth landing, not softly, but deeply. The judge leaned forward slightly, looked at me, then at them, and after what felt like forever, he spoke. This court finds no evidence. My heart slowed. Of mental incompetence. Then, this case is dismissed. And just like that, it was over. Not just the case, but the illusion. I had won. Not against them, but for myself. Outside the courtroom. Daniel stood there, silent. And for a moment, he looked like that little boy again. Lost, confused. But life doesn't pause for regret, and neither did I. Because some lines, once crossed, can't be undone. Months passed. Life changed. I moved. New space. New energy. New beginning. I travelled. Smiled. Laughed. Slowly, I rebuilt something I had lost. Myself. Evelyn became part of my life. Not out of need, but out of choice. And that made all the difference. Now, some nights, I sit quietly, looking out the window, thinking. Not about what I lost, but about what I gained. Freedom, peace, clarity. And I realised something powerful. Losing them was never my loss. It was my release. Never confuse being needed with being loved. People who truly love you will value your presence, not just your provision. The moment you stop giving should never be the moment you disappear, because real love does not depend on what you provide. It depends on who you are. My name is Margaret, and at 72 years old, I finally learned to choose myself. What would you do if you were in my place? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful life stories.